Your first shows were described as being performed at a cinder block roadhouse near the Tennessee River.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You did some reading up on me, didn't you?
Absolutely. Welcome back to Innersleeve right here on SoundMojo. I'm Cassius Morris, Joe Pacheco, and Frank Pavan, my co-hosts. What's going on, guys?
We're back and we're having fun.
We're back in action.
Crazy busy week, boys. But once again, always fun to be recording with you guys.
Same here, man.
Yeah, that's
100%.
about it. I mean, we've
Great
got
guests.
two good guests on this show, as usual.
As usual, yeah, always joined by the cream of the crop guests. Today we have the one and only Brandon Lay joining us. Of course, signed to Universal Music Nashville. He's one of the top players in the scene over in Nashville's country scene, which we're going to be chatting with him all about here in just a moment. Also, we're joined by the Chair Warriors. We were lucky enough to be joined by the entire group right here on Innersleeve for episode 30. And before we jump into these two interviews, which are awesome, if I may say so myself, there's a goofy little story that I wanted to run by you, Joe and Frank, and I'm not sure if you guys heard about this, but AC/DC has just announced that they're coming out with their brand new craft beer, as you can probably see on the screen here. They have the Power Up, I believe it's a lager, and then they have the TNT Double IPA. Are you guys feeling thirsty hearing about this or what?
This is news to me. This is news to me. I haven't heard about this, but I mean, it seems to be happening more and more, you know? Go ahead, Frank.
I feel like with how many great hits they've had, they can have so many good product names.
Yeah.
I feel like Back in Black could be refigured to a good beer name, or Hell's Bells. I don't know. Something like they should.
They get the dog bone, you know, because there's a song "Giving the Dog
right.
a Bone."
Give the dog a bone, right? If you want blood, you got it. You know, blood donors. I mean, there's a lot of.
Let me put my beer.
Hold on a second. No,
let's wait.
That's hilarious. No, I mean.
Shook me all night long? No, you shouldn't shake a beer, right?
It's all fizzy. I don't know why bands do this. Well, I do know why, to make a shit ton of money. But, you know, I don't know. Like, personally, I don't know how you guys feel. I kind of think like what Frank is saying is more along the right lines. Like, if you're going to do it, do something kind of creative. Like when we had Guar, for example, they had their whiskey, I think the Ragnarok whiskey, backstory behind it. It went with the theme of the band, all that type of stuff. That was kind of more of a cool venture. Yep. But to just put the TNT album cover on a beer can and call it the TNT beer, it's sort of like, give me your money type style.
Yeah. I agree. I agree that if there's an extra effort that's put into it, especially Guar, like they went far for like the lore and everything, the backstory behind it. But if there's a bit more effort and, like you said, creativity put towards it, it makes people appreciate it more, I think.
Yeah. Another huge hit. Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I think this is sort of like, I mean, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree kind of thing, but like these people have money and they're mostly successful that do these things. That's why they get to do these things. But it sort of maybe makes up for loss in revenue that like they used to get before in terms of royalties or like the streaming thing. No one's buying CDs anymore and stuff like that. So maybe this is just another way. It's another wave, you know, sponsorships, all this kind of stuff. Is just seems to be like just what it is now, right? In 2020.
I really wonder who's pushing the buttons when it comes to this, though, because these guys are old, man. They've lived their life already. They've had so many years, like so much mileage put on them. Like, I really wonder if it's just their management team who just gets the A-OK from them and then the management runs with it. Or because it can't be these guys are pursuing like, yeah, we should go and get a beer line.
No, it's pitched.
You get the rare case, I think.
Yeah. It's pitched. Yeah, like you see, like the Ragnarok Rye was probably more conceptual, so they probably came up with it. Whereas, like say Megadeth beer, right? It's a local brewery here that does it, or the Iron Maiden, you know, the Trooper beer and stuff. So, maybe it's like, I'm guaranteed it's like the company's reaching out to them or marketing guys like, hey, what else? Yeah. How else can we package a beer, right? And like, honestly, like beer, rock, and metal sort of go together. You know, like it's sort of like, you know, it doesn't mean everybody drinks beer, but it's kind of like what it is, you know.
It is like PB&J to a certain degree, absolutely. And you know, I think every group probably has their own Sharon Osbourne, so to speak. Some a master of puppets for their business behind the scenes, and you know, any successful group needs that. I also think you get the rare case, the Gene Simmons of the world, who are out there with their hands in the pot. So before we wrap this story up, I had to add, if we're talking about brand partnerships, one of the most legendary ones, Rap Snacks. The line of chips that's actually sponsored and brought to you by rappers, which you guys can see here, and this includes but is not limited to Boosie's Louisiana Heat Chips, Fetty Wap's Honey Jalapeno, and the Migos White Cheddar with a dab of ranch. They're hitting the dab, of course. Listen, guys, I might just retire from the show for the day. I think I've had enough internet for the day. I don't know about you guys. But let's get away from crazy snacks and drinks and hop into an interview. You know, Brandon Lay, somebody who, from chatting with him face to face, I mean, the passion in his eyes for the music is really noticeable. The one thing about Brandon Lay is that I know that once we got off the phone, all he's doing is looking for the next show and looking for the next place to record a song. This dude is dedicated.
He's hungry.
He's hungry, man, and it's kind of hard to find somebody with that level of hunger who's been doing it for so many years, who's already on a major label. Like, usually that hunger subsides a little bit. So I don't know. For me, it was really refreshing to see someone who's, yes, they've attained the level that they've been going towards, but they're looking to keep pushing that, and they're never satisfied, never settling.
I just love how proud these Southern artists are. You know, like especially the Nashville clique. I know he said he's not specifically from Nashville, but he is from Tennessee.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like, it's a strong community of people who just love their genre of music. He seems, though, really down to earth. Like you said, you guys had met for the first time on a Zoom call and you hit it off as if you were best friends. Yeah, he was really, soft-spoken, honest, genuine, kind of like a family guy, too. He was talking about renovations and real life stuff that we don't associate artists doing. But yeah, it was a good chat.
Yeah, I also like to bring back, to add to what you were saying, Cassius, a lot of people seem to think that once they get signed, they've made it. That's when the real work starts. Like,
exactly.
That's when the real work starts. Like, I mean, like, not to negate anything before that, because that's some heavy lifting you got to do to even get there, right? We all know that. All this, you got to play endlessly. But when you get signed, just because you have a deal doesn't mean, okay, now I can relax. And, it's literally, you got to go 10 times harder because the label will drop you if if you're not like bringing in the fans or the money or whatever. So
totally,
you got to work harder. So that's why you see that's why that hunger, it's like that drive is just endless, right? You have to. Yeah,
it's a really bad situation when you see those people who feel like they've reached the top of the mountain already with their little deal. And it's not to discredit anyone who has a deal, but you're right, Joe. Like that really is the point where it's like once the eyes are on you and once you're not the underdog anymore. Like they've given you the chance that you've been so adamantly asking for. So now you need to prove yourself. So yeah, it's definitely something different. But I think there's a wealth of knowledge that can be drawn on from this chat with Brandon Lay, especially for up and coming artists. I think this episode itself is really good for all the indie artists out there that watch us. And we'll let you guys get into it. Definitely, man. How's it going today?
It is going good. I've been, my wife and I are building a house right now, so we're almost done with it. So, I've been over there working this morning, just cleaning up after subcontractors that leave a mess. So,
wow.
I've been in the studio a lot lately, but when I'm not doing that, I've been kind of trying to help the building process along so we can move in. But no, life is good.
That's awesome. Is this a first time venture for you to build a house, and what's that sort of been like?
Second time, and it's been hell on my wife and pretty easy for me just because I let her and my dad designed it, and I just let her do everything she wanted. Like I figure people talk about like building a house is the toughest thing on a marriage, Mm-hmm. So it's been completely easy for us just because I'm like, you just take care of that. Let me have a barn where I can have tractors and old trucks, and I'm happy.
Happy wife, happy life, and you get your stuff.
Exactly.
That's very cool.
I get the outside. She gets the inside.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the house. I mean, that's definitely going to be, obviously really exciting for you guys. You said your father helped design it. I know your father was a minister. Again, was that something that was in his background, or was this did he just happen to be involved?
I think he just has always been interested in it. before he was in the ministry, he was juvenile court director, and he did a lot of construction stuff with them. Like he designed a ballpark and some buildings and got some federal grants and whatnot. So he kind of has a background in that, and he really likes it. So he likes to stay up till 2 or 3 and drawing and erasing and drawing. So
okay,
I just let him and my wife hash it out, and they came up with something they liked.
It seems like there's a lot of working with your hands in your past. There's sort of a passion for vehicles, a passion for like sports and building.
Yeah.
Talk to me about sort of how music bubbled up within all of those passions, because it seems like that's still a part of your life quite a bit.
It is, and I think it's because the like sports, there's a winner and there's a loser, and you know where you stand. When you're painting the side of a barn, you know how much you got done, and I think that's the complete opposite. Not to get too artsy fartsy, but it's the complete opposite of music. You know, I mean, I've been in Nashville almost 11 years now, and it's you work really hard every day and write songs, but sometimes those songs just disappear into cyberspace. Nobody ever hears them, and it's a slow process. Sometimes you don't know where you stand, and of course there's the charts to go by, but other than that, there's not really incremental measurements to kind of to a career. It's a little more like the Wild Wild West. So I think that's why the instant gratification kind of offsets the crazy music business.
No, that's actually a good point. I saw this interview with Zach Wilde yesterday, and he was saying that he doesn't anybody being the best in music or the ultimate musician, and that he finds it very appealing that it's sort of there's something for everyone sort of in this field, if that's fair.
I think so. I mean, it's all subjective, it's what can you do to move somebody? And, songs to me are like moods, some songs you hear, you're in an instant mood. And the drama in Mutt Lange's productions, I'm a huge fan of, even in the Def Leppard and the Bryan Adams, and especially the first Shania Twain record was amazing. So I don't know. I think of those songs as like, you hear any Man of Mine, as goofy as it is, like you can't help but dance to it. And so I think, he's right. Music is pretty universal.
No question. So was that some of the earliest stuff for you, sort of the Def Leppard stuff or the rock? I know you were into Springsteen always, guys like that.
Actually, the Springsteen and stuff came later, like more like high school and college. And,
gotcha.
I started to find out who my heroes were when I got older.
I love that point. That's a great phase to hit. Like
Garth Brooks and Kenny Chesney. Like, I love those guys, but I'm like, now who are they imitating? Like
exactly.
Who's inspiring Young? I mean, that sounds just like, Hurt So Good. It's like, you put the pieces together. It's kind of like the grandfather influences are the Jackson Browns, the Springsteens. And I didn't discover them till later. Earlier, it was country, the class of 89, Clint Black, Alan Jackson. And my mom listened to soft rock. So like Journey and Def Leppard, Bryan Adams. So that was kind of the mix.
Lots of American staples in the mix. And I've heard you talk about how that's important for you, that tracks sort of capture the working man's life and or Americana in a lot of ways. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I grew up, better than probably 99% of the world. So I have a lot to be thankful for. But, middle class. My mom was a teacher at a private school that I went to, and my dad was a minister and didn't make much. But I don't know. I think I've always identified more with the waiter than the owner.
Right.
And I think that served me well in songwriting, I don't know. My dad was a preacher, and it's funny parallels with like being on stage doing music and then him being on the pulpit preaching, because ultimately you're trying to, connect with people. And obviously that's for a much bigger, different reason, but the power of music can really move people and lead people. And I think that's what that platform is kind of what draws me to it the most, is that interaction with the average Joe. So
how often were you actually in the church growing up? Was it all the time or just sometimes?
Pretty much all the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Sunday nights, Wednesday nights. We were there a lot. So, and I never sang in church, never did music. My sisters did, but I wasn't really into doing the organized music stuff. I liked AC/DC and Kenny Chesney, and then like in high school we were all about Memphis rap, like Lil White and 3-6 Mafia, all that stuff was like, that's what we were bumping. And so, it kind of covers a lot of ground.
That's the cool thing about Tennessee for me, is that there's so many different like pockets of music, but they all seem to have made their mark throughout the international music scene, which is cool too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Memphis, I think, is still underrated, but I mean, just what they've contributed to the hip hop scene since, say, the year 1999 or 2000, it's like, that's some really good stuff.
Seriously.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm from Jackson, which is in between Memphis and Nashville, and I feel like there's definitely a rock scene in Jackson, and there was kind of an opening for a country band when I came up in college. So when we started putting a band together, of course, all my buddies would come and drink beer. And so the bars loved that. So I kept getting booked everywhere. And that's kind of what got me going, is, just being around the locals and, having that support from friends. So it's been a journey.
And that was all country, you were saying, because it doesn't sound like you were very much influenced by the style of music in church, maybe the act of getting up on stage, but not necessarily the gospel aspect per se.
No, I love Southern gospel and bluegrass. I love, whenever they do an old hymn at church, still to this day, is like what I feel like I'm actually worshiping God. Contemporary stuff, not so much. I know I sound like an old man, but it's true. I have a heart for the traditional stuff.
Totally.
No, the Christian music stuff, my core, my faith and my belief comes through in my songs, but as far as stylistically, I don't think it really has much to offer to my style, musically.
That makes sense. It's sort of wearing different hats at a certain point in time. I know that your first shows were described as being performed at a cinder block roadhouse near the Tennessee River.
Yeah, that's right. You did some reading up on me, didn't you?
Absolutely. Tell me about that venue.
Oh gosh, it was a block building and it was called The River. How original. But it had a drive-through where you could get beer and they would sell underage. Sorry, Mom. And the guy would hand us these cases of beer through the window and he'd be like, "Now, if you tell anybody, I'm breaking all y'all's legs." So it was like, it was that kind of place,
Sort of high stakes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was just cool, like stuff that probably couldn't even, pass these days. But they tore that building down, but it was dark, smoky, had like a 1993 cutout of Tim McGraw, it had a lot of neon signs, but they were all like from 91 or 88, you know what I mean? So it was a real smoky place and there was only 8 people there. And I wanted to start playing where I didn't know anybody. I just kind of, the hardest people to play in front of is like family for me and friends. So
I could see that.
If it was, complete crash and burn, I didn't want anybody to know about it. So that's why I drove 45 minutes to play at that open mic.
And what was that feeling like? Was it a feeling of, I'm enjoying this, there's 8 people here, or was it, oh, there's only 8 people here? Because some people, you can take either side.
Oh, I was glad there wasn't that many people there. And
right.
I was really nervous. And I played Keep Your Hands to Yourself, Fat Bottom Girls, and Eric Church song, Love Your Love the Most. And, we went pretty good. And I remember crossing the river on the way home. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for this for the rest of my life. So
wow. It's
kind of like when you see somebody, they say, it's so typical and quintessential to say, when you know, but I've really felt the fire, that night, because I thought maybe this wasn't the best, but now that I've done it once, I can go back. And I went back that summer every Tuesday night until we started, we put a band together, one piece at a time, and people started coming. And I think that's what really, even though it might have been pretty rough, we had a lot of fun, and so that's kind of what made me decide to stick with it.
So when you went to do this at first, I know you didn't invite any family or friends because you didn't want them to see, but did you tell them that this was happening?
No, I didn't want, I lived with 3 of my best friends in college, and no, I put my guitar in the back of my truck and snuck out one Tuesday night. And,
wow.
Stage fright, it's actually something that I've had to kind of overcome, because I used to overcome it with 7 Bud Lights and a shot of Fireball. You know what I mean?
That'll do it.
Yeah, and it was all fun, and every show I did was a party, and that I've had a lot of overcoming to do in that regard. So I've definitely, even through this COVID stuff, cut back on drinking, because when you play every night and that's your ritual or whatnot, you can see how that can spiral out of control.
That gets taxing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had to make some changes, and I've had good people around me. Thank the Lord. So I've had to make some changes there, but stage fright, the same feeling I had that night is I still get a little of that before every time. And I think that's what attracts me to it. It's like a race car driver or a ball player, whatever, that you want to get up for the event. So I still struggle with that, like social anxiety type of stuff. But, when the music hits, it's like a lot of that just goes away.
Right. It has a way of making things feel maybe more normal or more comforting, so to speak.
Yeah. More fluid. So,
yes.
The power of music. So, I've definitely had a change of lifestyle. I mean, just speaking freely, that was I think it was a detriment. And I started doing shows, not drinking. And I had buyers from, fair buyers come up, and they're like, we've never, heard you sound this good. And see, I always thought I sounded better when I was kind of half lit, you know what I mean? So, and they didn't know that whether so that's kind of my story. It's something, a lot of that stuff I'm not proud of, but it's interesting that they're like, wow, you're on point, better than I've ever heard. And it's funny that I thought it was the exact opposite.
You thought it was the opposite. Yeah, that's really strange for sure. By the way, sorry to sound like somebody who doesn't know the lingo here, but what exactly is fair buyer? What is that term?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just somebody that books state fairs. So
gotcha.
They're the people you want to impress and get to know, because they're in charge of obviously they got budgets and they can put you with a bigger act. And that's what we were mainly doing, was opening for bigger acts on these fair stages. So they're very sought after spots. So this was, I guess, 2 summers ago. But anyway, it's just funny how in my head I thought it was the exact opposite. So it's music has brought me a long way, publicly and privately. So
that's true. So Brandon, at what point did you go and tell people this is what I want to do for a living? Because it sounded like you were very sure once you did make up your mind, like there was no changing your mind.
No, it was probably 3 weeks after that first show. I was playing basketball at a small college, and I wasn't really getting playing time anyway. It was my junior year, and I knew I wanted to put a band together and concentrate on music. So about 3 weeks after that first show, I went and told the coach I was gonna quit. And I've never quit anything. I hate quitting, but it was a good move to do, because I needed to be getting ready to go to Nashville. And so it happened pretty quick,
Yeah. So how fast did things start to happen once you did hit Nashville? And how long was it until you sort of had record labels interested?
It took a while. I got to Nashville. I lived with my sister. She was a kindergarten teacher. And so I would go play open mics every night. And on the weekends, I would meet up with my band, and I had an old motorhome I got off Craigslist, and we would hit the road. We were gone every weekend. So I was writing every day during the week, playing every weekend. And so I did that for 3 years until I met somebody at ASCAP, which is a performing rights organization. ASCAP is one of the companies that they keep up with your radio play, and they pay songwriters basically.
Gotcha.
So and it's free. Anybody can join ASCAP. And I had a representative there, Robert Philhart, who I went and played a few songs for him. And that week I had an offer from Warner Chappell Publishing to be a songwriter. So that was good, because it let me. I used to do landscaping, and I had a few rental houses. I know we're getting in deep here, but I was doing a lot of that in between writing and playing music. So that when I got my publishing deal, it let me concentrate on music and gave me gave me at least enough cushion to justify living in Nashville. You know what I'm saying? So
for sure,
when I got the publishing deal, I feel like things started to move pretty good. And it was 3 years after I had the publishing deal. So 16 is when I got my record deal. And that came from a performance at a hard rock stage, CMA Fest. So that some reps were there and saw it and offered me a deal. So I've been blessed. Nashville's been good to me. You know, things don't move as quick as you want, but I'm blessed. It's been a fun journey, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next.
No question about that. You know, I wonder about the songwriting aspect. What was the difference for you, sort of being just a songwriter under a publishing deal rather than the differences that came once you had a full-on deal?
Well, once I had a full-on deal, it was I was writing just for me, and every co-writer I had, we would try to get something for me since I had a record deal. Whereas before, I was still writing for me, but at the same time, some days you end up writing for Blake Shelton, or, hey, this sounds like Jason Aldean, or, you know what I mean? So that was the main difference when I got a record deal. It was, you know, all right, let's see what would fit me, you know, so.
And then 16 years old, you got discovered. So that, I mean, it must have felt like things were.
I'm sorry. It was 2016. So
2016. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you started young for somebody who's been at it for so long.
I was 29 when I got my record deal.
Gotcha. Okay. So 2016. Now, you were approached by the guys at the Hard Rock show, was it? Now, was this a showcase or a CMA award show?
It was CMA Fest, where they set up stages all over Nashville for a week, CMA Fest, and they have, I mean, tons and tons of bands playing all day during the day. So it's just a big music fest. And Hard Rock has their own stage, and I think they pump artists through all day. So it's kind of you don't do sound check. You just go up there and plug and play, you know. So
wow,
it's pretty rock and roll, but you get like 25 minutes, and so we did our thing there, and I'm glad that the label reps were there.
Absolutely. Talk to me also about teaming up with the producer Paul DiGiovanni. I know that was a big one for you.
I love Paul. We just instantly connected. Connected. I love his, you know, Boston background, and I'm a Southern country boy, and we both really gravitated towards the same sounds, and I was like, man, and I like the way he did vocals. So, man, I just love that guy. We hit it off right away.
He sounds really cool from what I've learned about him, you know. Another thing I'm wondering is just about that sort of Nashville scene and the Tennessee scene. Do you feel like there's a lot of pressure when you are coming out as a new artist in this scene? Because there's so many established players and a lot of competition, it seems like.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it is because, you know, everybody's just trying to get heard. But the good news is there's never been more outlets than ever, you know. A record deal, honestly, has probably never meant less than it does right now. And I mean that with all respect to my label, because I'm thankful for a deal. But you have so many other outlets. It's not just radio, Walmart anymore.
Exactly.
You know? So I think it's good overall. It's great for up and coming young artists because they have a chance to be heard just as much as some of the big guys. Terrestrial radio still dominates, you know, kind of where you are in the hierarchy, but you can garner momentum through these other outlets and then go to radio. And I think that's the good thing. So
that's a good point. In terms of Nashville's individuality, what do you think sets the Nashville music market apart from other music markets in America, especially?
I'm probably biased. I think the best musicians in the world live here. You know, there's tons of studios, but it's like if you work hard and you're pretty good at what you do, you'll get heard. Whereas LA or New York, it's so big, you can be good and not get heard, I feel like. And Nashville's kind of small enough where it's not like it's a good old boy system, but you get to know the same faces and like in a good way, you know? So I think the Nashville scene is it really has the opportunity to be cliquey, but I don't think it is at all. I think that Nashville embraces new people and new artists like really well. So I think that's one of the strong points that draws people to Nashville is it is inviting, and there's there are so many producers and players. You can have a blue collar music job in Nashville, and I'm sure you can other places too, but I feel like there are more opportunities for normal guys if they're engineers, they're studio hands, whatever. Like, there's a lot of opportunity in the music field to make a living, whereas maybe other places it's more all or nothing. I don't know, but I know, and I think probably just the welcoming aspect is what maybe sets Nashville apart.
So it's sort of almost set up more so for this music scene and to be accessible to more people is what it sounds like.
I think so. I mean, there are just so many studios that are capable of putting out a record, and it's not, you can throw a rock and find a good guitar player,
right.
It's special. And it, a lot of people move down here with a dream. And I think Nashville is got enough clout or high enough on the profile and as far as world music where your dreams can come true in Nashville. So it's, it could be a gateway to what you're dreaming. So I know the other ones can too, but I think when you mix that with the smaller, more welcoming aspect, it makes it special.
That makes a lot of sense, definitely. And we're doing a special on Nashville coming up, so this is definitely going to give people some clarity on that for sure. How about the polarization of country music? The country seems to be a genre that people either really are into or they really seem opposed to. Is this something that you've noticed?
I have, yeah. I think there's probably a space for, or I think there's some validity to some of the people complaining it's not country enough. I think there's some validity to that. And then I think there's some validity to people saying it's, too pop or too generic or whatever. But the fact of the matter is it's never been more widespread and commercial than it is now.
True.
And I think that's because, I grew up, I listed the bands I grew up on, but, a lot of Matchbox 20 and, Blink 182, like it was TRL and watching Alanis Morissette. And like, I think a lot of kids that are on the radio now, listen to the same stuff growing up. And, I don't know if I'm not here to say if it's good or bad for the genre to be more commercial and maybe less rootsy, but I think every artist has the opportunity to be who they are. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just stay in my lane and be the best me and, try to connect with people. But there are a lot of different flavors going on right now.
Is that hard for you? Like, do you sometimes hear stuff and sort of subconsciously get drawn towards it when you're writing music and say, wait, I have to veer back to the original path here?
Yeah. And I've got to admit, I don't listen to country radio much, and that's probably a terrible thing to admit. I it's not because I'm like a hater, it's just because that right there, I don't want to be a sheep, and to a fault I try to write my own book, so to speak. So I listen to a lot of Fleetwood Mac and Tom Petty, but I listen to Don Williams in Alabama. So I love going back to the old stuff and finding deep cuts that I never knew existed. That stuff helps me write, I think, more true. I think that's the main goal. It's just to be honest. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you listen too much to what's going on, you can get drawn into the same old melodies, like,
exactly, right?
This right here has been in a million, you can definitely get drawn into that.
It's a really fascinating concept because most of the comedians I know try not to watch comedy. A lot of rappers I know don't listen to much rap. Yeah, so I think that this is a common theme for a lot of professionals.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better then.
Yeah, no, I think it's an okay thing to admit. It's it's a tactic. Here at Watch Mojo, we're obviously known very well for our top 10 lists. It's one of our pillars. And we have a list that I'd like you to react to. It's the top 10 most important country albums. But before we jump into this, I'm curious, if you can think of it on the spot, is there a country album that has been the most important for you in your life?
Probably the either Kenny Chesney, When the Sun Goes Down, that album, or Sinners Like Me, Eric Church. that came out in 2006. That one literally stayed in my truck for 3 years. So I would probably say Sinners Like Me was Eric's first album, and man, is it a good album. So that one's been rocking for a long time.
Any guesses for the number one album that we ranked for the number one country record? Could you guess what we placed in the list?
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Oh man. Shoot. No, I have no idea.
It's not the easiest thing to guess, especially when it's not narrowed down. The top 3 on our list, top 10 most important country albums, was number 3, "Don't Come Home a Drinkin' with Your Love on Your Mind," with "Lovin' on Your Mind" by Loretta Lynn.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
you know this one?
Yeah,
absolutely. Number 2, "Redheaded Stranger" by Willie Nelson.
Nice. Okay, these are deep. I like this.
Deep cuts. And number 1, "At Folsom Prison," Johnny Cash.
There you go. Hey, why didn't I say that?
It always seems obvious once you get the answer, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that stuff. That's cool. I mean, whatever we can do to keep that stuff alive is like, I would pity, young people that don't have a chance to hear that, like that would be, I feel like that kind of music, if you never heard it, you're being deprived,
Yeah, no question about that. Another one on our list was, we have the top 10 unforgettable country music award moments. Number 3 being Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton. Do you remember this duet?
I was there that night, and I turned to my wife. I was like, that is history. Like,
wow.
You could feel it in the room. And I'm not an over dramatic guy, believe it or not. And I told her, I'm like, that we just saw history. Like, 'cause it was electric. And it takes, it takes a lot to make me like feel like that, but that was a awesome moment.
That's huge. How many CMA awards have you actually attended?
3. Wow. Universal, my label, they've hooked us up with some good seats, and of course my wife enjoys doing it and picking out a dress and all that stuff. So it's been fun. It's cool to see it in person. That was definitely a highlight.
That's incredible. Nothing but good times. Brandon, this has been an awesome chat. Just curious, before we wrap up, what are you most excited about moving forward, and what do you have your sights set on, especially as this pandemic sort of begins to come to an end, hopefully?
Absolutely. New music. I've been working on a ton of stuff throughout COVID, and just real quick, my writing style has always been more nostalgic and looking back, and that's kind of been a default tactic, I guess, of writing, but having 2 kids and this pandemic coming to a close, I feel like it's never been more important to live in the here and now, and that's kind of what's inspired this new music. It's just more fun and more in the moment, and I can't wait to play this stuff live. And so that getting this music out and going on, taking it on the road, that's what I live for.
That's super exciting, man. Brandon, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it today.
Absolutely, man. Good to see you.
What's up, y'all? This is Lee from the band Pop Evil, and you're listening to Innersleeve right here on SoundMojo. Tony Da!
We're back with another tremendous set of guests right here on SoundMojo's Innersleeve, and it is an honor and a pleasure to introduce a couple people, one of them being one of our own from right here on SoundMojo. Rob, of course, the Mojo Plays and Get Mojo manager, with Gopal and Brandon, the drummer and singer of Chair Warriors. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much, man. Just living life.
Living life. Hey, well, we appreciate you guys joining us. And, Rob, maybe if I could give the floor to you for a second, sort of maybe tell us a bit about this project and sort of how it's come about, and also how it's tied into maybe your work here at Watch Mojo.
Sure. Well, before I started working at Watch Mojo, I was talking with Joe, and we got Chair Warriors involved with SoundMojo. They released a couple of our songs on the YouTube channel, so I've been working with him for a little while. And the band in itself has been around for a long time. We started in 2009. It was kind of a high school project of mine with Brandon and my brother at the time. Then a couple years after that, Gopal joined the picture to drum for us. And we've just been working pretty consistently ever since. Released 2 EPs and a bunch of singles, and we're working on a full-length album now. So we've just been doing this for over a decade at this point.
Man, that's
weird to
awesome.
say a decade, huh?
Yeah.
That's madness. So Brandon and Gopal, how did this really like start with you guys? I know, were you the first member to join Gopal?
No, well, they've had other drummers. Like Rob said, his brother was drumming for them. I was actually, when I saw them in March of 2012, it was at a landmark event. It was one of these multi-band Battle of the Bands type events where they were the showcased artist, where I think they had performed previously. And I knew the organizer of these events. I was up in the stands with him hanging out, and he said, you should stick around and see this group. You're really going to like them. And if you can, give them any advice or whatever, it could be something. So he was going to either way introduce me to Brandon or all of you guys at the end. I saw the performance. I thought it was really, really cool. I hadn't seen something like that in a long time. And I liked that it was a trio. I liked that there was no bassist. And I didn't have really an intention to play with them at the time. I wasn't even thinking about that. So I met Brandon that night. We stayed in touch pretty much after. And then the next year, I believe Ryan left the group, or towards the end of that year. And then they were still trying to find other people. I even referred them to one guy. It didn't end up working out. And then Rob had actually said, why don't you just come jam with us and just see, just for kicks. Brandon said the same thing. And that was in May of 2013, and I stuck around ever since because it was cool. I liked the material. I liked a lot of the new ideas that they were working on at the time, and I figured I could just add a little something of my own to that and see how it could all develop. And it's already been a little over 8 years.
What was the drumming audition like? Robin and Brandon, did you put him through the ringer? Did you give him many auditions or what?
To be honest, he was there during like a few of the auditions, I think, as well. So if anything, it would have been rigged from the beginning. He knew exactly what we needed.
Well, I saw more of the shows. You had done a couple of gigs with a few other guys, and I was just coming to see those. So I saw those, and you knew
how they operated, so to speak.
Yeah, I knew what the style was. I knew what they were expecting. I knew what I could bring to it, and we already, I was already talking to Brandon for over a year at that point. So we were getting along as people. I knew it would be fun, and it was that. It just worked out.
You got me hunting like a wolf pack. You got me hunting like a wolf pack. You got me searching the land and seas to find me a reason to live. You got me hunting like a wolf pack.
How easy would you guys say it is to find new members? Like, let's say, out of 5 guys, is it like 3 of them there's a strong consideration as a new drummer, so to speak, or is it like usually just the one guy that really shines and the rest are like, no, we can't do this?
I think it's tough.
It's tough?
I think it's really tough to find new members.
We've had kind of a community of other bands over the years, and I think we're down to probably 1 or 2 bands out of the dozens of bands we used to play with that still are together. So bandmates, and usually a lot of the cases was that bandmates would come and go and there would be fights between members in the band. But I guess it was kind of interesting. We've already did majority of our shifting with bandmates at the very beginning of our lifespan. And I think when Gopal came in, it just kind of solidified everything. And me and Rob already had a really good relationship just as friends too, since the high school times. And I think we were just kind of lucky. I'm going to be honest. I think we're pretty lucky compared to some of the other local bands. So I'm personally proud of that too.
So there's also a reason why we kind of chose to remain a trio for so long. It's kind of you find the couple of guys that really click with you, that you kind of work well together, and there was no need to introduce anyone else.
Yeah, it's less cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that amazing formula that you guys have, amazing energy. If I could just go back, because I have a little bit of a crush on this band for a long time, in the sense that I remember, I think it was 2010, and you guys were doing a Battle of the Bands gig for TV. I think Can Your School Rock or something.
Can Your School Rock.
You remember that? So I was doing backup sound in case the main sound didn't go. I'd have ready to go, and I was recording everything so that they would be able to put it later on for a TV show. So I set everything up. It was like 6 a.m. call. You know, you're there at 6 a.m. setting up all your stuff, blah, blah, blah. So, and you start to hear the bands as they go through, and I'm listening. Oh, okay, it's high school bands. I've been through it myself. You know, it's like, okay, this band's okay. This one's a bit heavier. These guys, they're off, whatever. Then you guys came on. And it was like, instantly, man, I was like, holy cow. These guys are like different, man. These guys are going to win. And that was like the first day that these guys are going to win. And then a couple of weeks later, you guys won. I was right, man. I knew it. It's like,
that's awesome.
Something about your voice, your melodies, the fact that you guys had the piano and then the rock. So it was like musy, right? Muse vibes a bit.
Yeah.
And ever since, like, I've been a fan. I've checked you guys out like all the time. That's why as soon as like SoundMojo started up, I don't know how Rob found out. That I think it was through Twitter that Ash was doing something with SoundMojo, Watch Mojo, blah, blah, blah. And we just connected, and I'm happy we did, man, because like every time Rob sends me an email, hey, we got a new song, I'm pretty sure already it's going to be 100% a yes. And then I hear it and it's like, holy shit, it's 300% yes. You know what I mean? It's,
Nice.
It's nuts, man. Like my personal favorite, like, is Spirit. I don't know what it is, like, because it gives you that retro 80s vibe. That's what I kind of hear, you know, and take away from it. Like, it gives me that good summer feeling, you know. Anyways, that was my 2 cents on that take.
Thank you. That's so kind of you.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's really good feedback. So, you know, Joe, like when you see these bands, I mean, like, was it just sonically or so? And maybe we've discussed this before, but what sorts of elements make a band stand out to you like that in a showcase sort of setting, so to speak? And because, you know, you mentioned like some of the guys were off, some of the guys just weren't that good. What do you think gives a band that edge in that setting?
Well, I'll be honest, like we have spoken about this, and I've had a bit of chance to like, you know, come up with an official answer, because it's like, but honestly, the simple truth is, I'm not even paying attention. Like it hits me, or it like you just get this instant feeling of like, whoa, what's that? I got to hear that. Or you know, like my focus shifts right to this now, you know? So like even with like growing up over, you know, listening to all metal and rock and pop and all that stuff, and you just realize that like I don't even pay attention to the lyrics sometimes, because I'm so enamored with the sound and the feeling it gives me that I catch up later on to the intricacies. Like, holy shit, did you see the drummers doing that? Oh, did you see the guitar player do that lick or whatever? I'm not even paying attention, because it's just that initial listen, you know, right away it's like, you know, and like it's like a tractor beam is just like, here, listen to this, you know, like, so that's kind of what it is. So if that happens to me when I hear somebody on SoundMojo or somebody submits music and I get that feeling right away, it's like, oh, I think we're halfway there, you know. Now it's just like, do you have a video? Do you not have a video? Like, how can we work this so that like it's more engaging to the audience? And you guys had like off the bat had some really fantastic videos.
Yep.
So yeah. So,
how about you guys? Like, what as chair warriors? Like, obviously you all have, you know, individual perspectives, but I mean, what sets artists apart for you guys? And like when you see a band in such a crowded scene, like what are some of the elements that really make them pop?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Or maybe
obviously
like
great music is a good
emulate.
standing point.
Yeah. Well, look, we can always say that everything's already kind of been done, but when something still seems a little different from what you're hearing on the radio, which one song seems to meld into the other, especially when it comes to more of the top 40 stuff, I have a hard time keeping up, and I don't really follow that stuff. So if something sticks out a bit, if there's a certain level of musicianship, a certain level of, you know, unorthodox structuring of music or angular melodies, because like Joe was saying, I don't necessarily pick up on lyrics right away. It's more just a melody or even a tone of voice, something that's really weird, like you know, that band was it July Talk or whatever that came out some years ago?
Yeah, that voice.
Yeah, such a strange voice. And I only know 1 or 2 songs, again, the ones that were on the radio, but that did catch my ear just because it was different, even though it was fitting in a very 4/4 rock, shiny kind of, you know, radio kind of song. But there's also other things, you know, you'll hear something by like some of the older Incubus stuff, where you're hearing some really cool instrumentation, really great playing, incredible vocals. Half the time, I don't know what the guy's saying. So lyrics would be the last, but then I'll go and get the liner notes and then start reading, and then you get engaged that way. So artists who have more of a multifaceted approach, where there's something in it in all these different elements. And I can usually detect that in 30 to 60 seconds and want to look further, because I have such a low attention span as well. So I guess we all do these days. So there you go. If it can fit in that 30 to 60 seconds for me to say, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, I want to dig more deeply into this, then that's a win.
No, I like that. Yeah. You seem to sort of agree, Brandon.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I think like to get captured or enamored by music, there needs to be like this beautiful balance between like simplicity and experimental. Because it's like and that's one of the hardest things to do. Like a lot of pop music will go more in the simplistic route because it's easier to catch your attention to, it's easier to latch onto, you know, and they've made an art form out of it. But the cool thing about like, say, like being in a band and a progressive one at that is that you get to experiment a lot more with some of the more technical elements of music, you know? And so like, at least for us, what we try to do is we try to find that like proper balance between the two, you know, like maybe I'll keep my melodies like very simple and stuff, but then you'll have like technical stuff going on underneath. And like, that's kind of like what drives my attention when I hear like almost like a cacophony of sounds or like crazy weird things, and then you have like these beautiful searing simple melodies on top, and it's just like, whoa, I can attach onto this in the first 30 to 60 seconds because it's easy to listen to the melody, but then afterwards listen to it a few more times and you're like, whoa, what's the drums doing? Oh, what's the synth doing? What's the guitar doing, you know? And it all clicks. And sometimes you love a song at the very beginning, but then sometimes you just love a song from listening to it over and over and over again, and you appreciate it. You know, it's so fun. Yeah, that's how it feels for me when it comes to music and listening to it. Yeah,
it's funny you guys bring up this topic, and it was started by GoPals because even like super popular songs, I don't know the lyrics. Like I don't. Everyone, like my girlfriend makes fun of me because I don't know the lyrics to any of these popular songs that we should know of. But all I listen to is, like you said, the melody, the instrumentation. That's what I really care for. That stands out to me. So if I like the artist and the song itself, I'll go further and read up on it. But at first, when I'm actually listening to music for the first time, it's like I'm just looking for the sound itself, not necessarily going that extra mile to listen directly to the actual lyrics. I guess that's what catches out for me in music. But that stands out in your music as well, guys. Like it's very powerful sound for sure.
100%.
It's the layers. You peel off the layers and you discover something else, you know. I'm still listening to stuff from 20 years ago and I listen to, I never heard that, you know. I never paid attention to that, you know?
I'm still listening to Sgt. Pepper, and I know you are too, so it's like, you know, I mean, it just depends. But no, it's such a good point you guys are raising, and like this is why I love this, because this is like a master class for any up and coming artist. Like this type of knowledge, you know, is obviously golden. And you know, I've also heard it compared that songs or a vocal track in a song, some producers say it's like an instrument in a song. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be the main thing. It's just another one of the sounds in a track. So when you start looking at it that way, you know, some people the bass line will jump out, some people the drums will jump out. It doesn't necessarily have to be the lyrics and the voice just because that's supposed to be the main thing.
I want to bring it back to a bit earlier in our chat. I think Gopal, you brought up the fact that when you were kind of considering whether to join the band or not, you were interested in the fact that they didn't have a bassist.
Yeah, because it sounded so full.
I don't know enough about music to have like that advanced info. Like, why is that something that's attractive or appealing, or just something
first off, it was just because it was different, because almost every pop or rock band has a bass player. It's part of the rhythm section. So you have a drum set locking in with the bass, holding down the low end frequencies as the guitar is playing more riffs and melodies, and then the vocals are kind of floating over all of that. So to anchor things down, the bass is even a lower frequency than the kick drum. And what I was seeing with Chair Warriors was, you know, Brandon was playing a lot of the bass stuff with his left hand on the keyboard. I saw that instantly, and that reminded me of the Doors, because the Doors didn't have a bassist either, and Ray Manzarek was doing all of that. And I like the Doors, so I said, okay, and this sounds really full. I don't notice anything missing. So right there, I said, okay, well, that's just a weird, you know, not a marketing thing, like not necessarily because you want to say that's why it's cool, but it was different enough for me to notice it, and also notice that nothing was lacking as a result. So that added to the fact that it was a very keyboard-centric band, which is also not too popular. And Brandon was also playing and singing. So it was like a lot was going on, and the keys were right up front. So all that with the lack of a bassist, and I didn't notice it. And I've played with some really good bassists in the past, so I was very spoiled. And I'm very critical of bass players because some of them just stick to root notes and they're boring. And when I see one, it has to be really good. And here there wasn't anything. Like there was no bass and I didn't notice anything missing. So I said, okay, I like this.
It's true. You just made me realize I didn't even notice that you guys are missing a bass player. That's exactly like, it's kind of like hit me now. Like it's true. They don't have a bass player. So it's not missing. Nothing's missing.
Again, a good thing,
Yeah.
That's
I want
awesome,
to ask
though, guys.
actually about the songwriting process. Who brings in what? Is it a jam thing? Is it
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends because like most of the time we would jam. Like we would just come up with like a few different ideas, and then we would spend like our practice sessions just continuing to write and build on the tracks. And sometimes it would even be the case where like I bring these guys like a skeleton of a track, like maybe a structure, maybe some chords, and then I'm just like, all right, you guys have fun, like do whatever you want on this, and we'll see what it gives, And then of course Gopal being Gopal and Rob being Rob, and the fact that we already built like a chemistry over these years, like they just come up with something in seconds, and it's so instantaneous. So
have
like,
you guys been able to jam as of late?
We've managed actually a few times. The good thing is I have like a pretty like isolated studio, so I mean it's not too difficult for them. Rob lives really close by, and Gopal, it's like a drive away, so it's not too bad, and it's fun. It's been a completely different way of writing because like studio writing, I find in comparison to jamming, has its own benefits too. So it's just been a fun, different experience.
It's been a lot more efficient actually. Because anytime you want to jam some ideas and you have the Cubase running, you can just bang all the ideas out, document them away, cut them up the way you want, save what you want, delete what you don't want, so it's scrap. You're not going to waste another 3 weeks noodling with something and then also forgetting it. Which if you're just in a jam room and it's really loud and you forget what you did and you got to run, well, you just documented it and it's there. And luckily for us, before this whole situation started last March, we had already worked on quite a few ideas that are slowly being released now and will end up on the final full-length record. So when things started reopening, we were going back to Brandon's studio and quickly, efficiently finishing what needed to get done, whether it was recording more guitar parts, getting more vocals and backings and just whatever, because the drums were already, for the most part, done previously. So we were just adding to what we needed to in the studio, and it's really done on a focused song-by-song basis now. So you can get a lot of work done this way, and you're not just throwing ideas and throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks.
Badworld, the quarantine version, which you did, just an outstanding performance. I was just literally, somebody hit me up yesterday about it saying like, dude, did you check that out? Of course I did. I put it up, man.
Yeah, seriously. What do you mean? I hope you checked it out. So guys, when's the record coming out? Do we have any tentative release date, or are we just working on the body of work right now?
Gopal, you're the one with the scheduling.
Well, it's always sliding goalposts. I guess we're all used to that on many levels these days.
Yeah.
So we have all these songs that we're working on. The goal was to have, in the end, it's going to be about 13, 14, maybe even 15 tracks with all these cool little interludes, and to really make an experience. So it's hard to put like a definite date on it. I'd like it to come out in 2022. I'm pretty sure at some point we can get that done, but there's some little intricacies of the mixing, mastering, and the artwork and all this stuff. And we've been releasing songs on a single by single basis through WatchMojo, SoundMojo, and just trying to build a bit of an affinity to each song so that you don't just dump 15 songs in one shot and then it sinks like a stone. In this way, we're kind of building up a rapport with people. And then when the rest of the material's done, try to drop all that at some point in 2022. I'd like to say maybe in a year from now. I think it'll all be done realistically. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but
no, it's all good
without rushing anything or just saying something that you're gonna have to take back. I'd say in 2022 that's the goal. So it's a very broad number. I think it'll work.
Awesome, guys.
I wanted to ask just before we kind of sort of close up, unless anybody else wants to ask any questions. Will this be? I know you guys have worked with David Bottrill, and I love David Bottrill. You know, being a Peter Gabriel producer, he produced Tool, some of my favorite Tool albums. Like, what's the involvement with him? I mean, we have like about 3 minutes left there, but like, what's the involvement with him? Is he like in terms of the production, or is it just like a mixing situation with him?
Mixing.
Oh, okay. And like, how's it working with him? The going back and forth. Is it like, does he nail it on the first thing? You're like, holy shit, or is it like, can I adjust this, that? You know?
He's like pretty close. Like for Spirit, he nailed it like instantly. Like it was like we were like, this is perfect. You don't even need to do anything to it. Some of the other stuff, because like there's like some issues with me sending some stems and stuff. He managed to fix it after like say like the second try and stuff. After I resend him some stuff as well, but like he was so easy to work with. The guy is such a nice guy and so talented. My God, just like seeing like his mixing like capabilities was insane. Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, because we got to go to his place in September just to give like the final okay on stuff and listen to it at his place and make sure we were 100% happy with everything. And he was very close on both, but very open to also taking suggestions because again, he Brandon and the group was producing the songs and he was working more on just making it sound as good as he could. With his, I guess, his unique touch. And then we wanted to work with him for a long time. So it finally worked out. It was good.
It's incredible that we have opportunities today in 2020, 21, whatever, that like we can work with these people, right? Whereas before it was so out of touch, out of reach. It was like, he's working with Tool. Forget it, like.
It definitely feels closer now.
It's so cool that, it's so cool that like now you can just send off your tracks to, whoever it is, Bernie Grundman for mastering or like all the top names we always see in every legendary album, so. That's so cool. Anyways, I was just wanted to know like how it was working with him. I never got the opportunity, and I'm a big fan, so it's cool.
So
you should send him an email.
Hit him up. Maybe that'll come from this episode.
We'll actually get him on the show. Why not? Yeah.
There you go. Good idea. Jam-packed show of guests today, guys. I mean, I feel spoiled over here.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally.
Spoiled or tired? I don't know which one of the two. But.
A bit of both. Healthy mixture of both. A lot of work went into this episode, man. And I think that one of the coolest things is just sort of seeing, and we've touched on this maybe last week even, but it's so cool seeing just where people are at, especially through sort of the lockdown as we're coming out of it and stuff, and just keep getting these consistent check-ins with artists and really to assess where the business is at right now. It's a really cool opportunity.
Yeah. Like, and I love like the fact that we mix it up with like some more indie guys and some more, let's say maybe more established artists.
We listened to the artists on the poll answers, and they wanted a bit more SoundMojo interviews. We're giving it to you.
Yeah, we've got like a bunch more lined up, and it's tough. It's interesting, like where when you deal more with, let's say, like I was saying, established artists, like. We tend to record, let's say, during the day interviews. When it comes to indie artists, they have jobs, they have lives, right? So we have to like, holy cow, we're doing it on a Saturday, we're doing it on a Monday, or we're doing it on an evening, So, but it's like it's the love we have for it. I think
we will not stop. God damn it, we will not stop.
That's it. Like we just make it happen.
It is not in us to stop. So we're just going to keep it rolling. But definitely continue to watch for those polls, as Frank just mentioned. And if you want to catch them, you can head over to our YouTube channel, of course, SoundMojo. Click that subscribe button. And click the little notification bell right next to it to get real-time updates. And on that channel, of course, are all of our videos. We publish almost every single day. But we also have our community tab and our polls. And that's really where you can let us know who you want to see on the show next. We will have anybody, or at least try to contact them, if they're relevant to this world of music. It doesn't have to be rock. It doesn't have to be pop. It could be anything. So just let us know. And also follow us on social media at SoundMojo, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're everywhere, guys. And TikTok and also our audio platforms. We have the podcast basically anywhere podcasts are available. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So just go ahead and click the subscribe button if you want to maybe catch us while you're driving around in the car, working out, whatever. And I don't know if you guys had anything else to add, but really happy with this episode.
Yeah, same here, man. And like I was just gonna say, like more and more we're gonna be integrating, like you were saying about Spotify. We'll be putting a special playlist of our favorite songs, maybe of the Chair Warriors, Brandon Lay. I'll put a playlist link in the description. Definitely check them out.
Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Innersleeve. We'll catch you guys next week.